Recording in progress.
You are live. The floor is yours.
Greetings, Douglas County. My name is Kelly Robinson. Welcome to the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Today is Monday, February 20th, 2023. And this is the Finance Committee, a standing committee of the Board of Commissioners. And this is our monthly meeting, and we're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a pretty full agenda. I believe we've got at least a quorum, but let me go around the room and confirm everybody is here. And then we'll get into the actual agenda that will be led by Madam CFO Bivens. So I'll start with myself by way of roll call. Because we are online, we need verbal confirmation just for the written record. So I'll start with myself, Kelly Robinson, Chairman of the committee.
Ramona Jackson Jones, Vice Chair of the committee.
Frederick Perry, Deputy County Administrator.
Tiffany Stewart Stanley, Assistant County Administrator.
Ramona Bivens, Chief Financial Officer.
That it? I think that's it. All right, so we'll close it out, acknowledging all of our standing voting members of the committee. Do we have any support personnel that's here? I want to acknowledge is David Good or Rosalind Miller. Y'all out there, right?
Yes, Commissioner David Good.
Rosalind Miller.
Very good. I just want to confirm my support members as well. Thank you, guys. All right, we're going to go ahead and jump into this. So, Madam CFO, let's get into our agenda item, which first one should be the meeting minutes, but I'll let you take it first.
Yes, sir, thank you. So the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. We have the Finance Committee meeting of November 15th, 2022. With the Finance Committee meeting of December 12th, 2022. As you recall, we did not have those ready at our January meeting. And then we also have the meetings from the committee meeting, the minutes from the committee meeting on January 17th, 2023. So we need to get those. We should have received those in the email on Friday. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to review them. And if there's no changes needed, we just need to get those approved.
All right. Since we are in a committee only at the board level, that we can do something like we just accept them as is. I like to vote these officially into the record, especially because we missed a month or so, which is okay. But I just for the record. So I'm going to make a motion to adopt the meeting minutes as recommended by Madam CFO. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, I got a second. So all in favor of accepting the meeting minutes as referenced by Madam CFO. We're going to go around the room and either vote yes or no with your name as a confirmation. Kelly Robinson's vote yes.
Ramona Jackson Jones, yes.
Ramona Bivens, yes.
Frederick Perry, yes.
Tiffany Stewart Stanley, yes.
All right, I think we have a unanimous voting and adoption of the meeting minutes for the last couple of cycles. All right, Madam CFO, please keep going.
Yes, so thank you, Commissioner Robinson. The next two items are our business items. The first is the monthly financial report for January, as of January 31st, 2023. And Rosalind will be doing that one as well as this 2016 SPLOST single view after she completes the finance report.
That'd be fine, perfect, lead right in. Go right ahead, madam.
Perfect. Let me just share my screen.
Okay. As CFO Bivens mentioned, I will be going over January of 2023 financial reports, and in reviewing just some highlights for your revenue, the county's revenue decreased by 3.6 million compared to 2022. And this is due to the ARPA pay increase and the living wage initiative. That journal entry will not be recorded until February. So last year at this time it was recorded. However, this year it will be recorded in February. So we'll be in line with 2022's revenue. So the reason of the decrease is just it's really housekeeping, is a journal entry. The next is your expenditures. For the first month, in January, for the year, you are trending under budget. For the first month, the expenditures were under budget, and we'll go into details when we get into the detailed reports. However, when you compare your expenditures with last year's at the same time, they've increased by $750,000. The majority of the increase was transportation. They had some projects at the beginning of this year. Your SPLOST revenue is doing well, as reported this morning during the work session. And just looking at going back to 2020, the total collections was 28.2 million in 2020, and in 2021, 32.1 million, and 2022 anticipate 36. Well, not anticipate, but actually collected 36.4 million. So in January, just as a month, it increased about $216,000 compared to 2022. This report is the summary of the 4 funds that we'll go into detail, and it's your general fund, the UNINC, fire services, fire and EMS, and animal control. And this is for the month of January. And as always, for general fund, as you know, majority of the revenue comes in towards the end of the year. So when you're looking at January's revenue for general fund, it's 1.3, but your expenditures is at 8.1 million. So you're going into your fund balance, which is your cash flow that takes you through, once you receive your tax revenue. So you do have money to continue up until November. We anticipate there will not be a TANs that would be needed, and that's a short-term loan to get you through. And the numbers are unaudited. So the beginning fund balance, which is 2022's ending, we're projecting the ending fund balance to 2022 would be 51.9 million. And again, this is general fund. And when you minus out the 6.7 million, because your revenue is 1.3, your expenditures is 8.1. So it's your ending fund balance is 45.1. However, you have several items that have been obligated or reserved. So your unassigned fund balance, that means reserved or unrestricted, you can use it for operations. It makes the 45 turn into 34.1, meaning you have 34.1 million that you can spend on operations, and the rest are obligated funds. So with the UNINC, the same, the revenue is 346,000. Your expenditures is 1 million. That is you're under your expenditures are more than your revenue by 723,000. We're anticipating UNINC's fund balance, ending fund balance would be 7.8 in 2022. So when you minus out the deficit from expenditures minus revenue, your ending fund balance is 7.1 million. And just like general fund, you have some obligations, and you have POs, outstanding POs for about 37,000. So it makes your unrestricted 7.1. The next is fire services, and fire services revenue was 2.2, and the expenditures were 1.4. So with fire services, since they receive revenue monthly based off of the ambulance services and also the SDS funding, their actually revenue is more than expenditures by 865. So we're anticipating 2022's ending balance for fire and EMS to be 564, but plus the 865 for the month of January, where revenues was more than expenditures, their ending balance is 1.4. And just like the other funds, they have obligations, and the unrestricted is 752,000. So out of the 1.4, you have about 700,000 of obligations, and then the other 700,000 is unrestricted, where you can use it for operations. The next is animal control. Total revenue is 184,000. The expenditures are 101. They are adding to fund balance by 82,000. We're anticipating 2022's ending fund balance to be 549. So when you add the 549 plus the 82,000, you get an ending fund balance as of January. And again, all of these numbers, they will change, especially the ending fund balance in the beginning. We're anticipating 632,000. And they have outstanding POs of 28,000. So their unrestricted is 603. So now we're going to go into more of the detail of the general fund and the revenue. And again, as of January, you're only receiving property tax where if someone is making a late payment, it's coming into January, and a few, and also the penalties. So for your tax section, your revenue is not, of course, it's just $1 million, which is within the taxes. But again, your revenue will come in at towards the end of the year for the taxes. And for the intergovernmental agreement, intergovernmental section, this is grants. And as you may be aware, the grants were actually coded into general fund. So CFO Bivens has requested that staff move the grant funds out of general fund and create a separate fund. So that's what we're in the mix of doing now. So in the intergovernmental section, you will no longer see any grant funds. The next is your charges for services. You're at 201 compared to 104 in 2022. And again, this is your Parks and Rec fees, you got your sheriff's inmate telephone, and Parks and Rec is the generator of this sections for January. The next you have your courts and law enforcement. When comparing to last year, it was 10,000 at this time. This year is 21,000, and it looks like the biggest fee in January last year, there was not a jail surcharge. This year it's 8,000. The next is your investment, your regular investment earnings. And this number is high. We've noticed that in your Georgia Fund 1, the interest rates are very good. They've doubled from last year. And so you have your SPLOST funds and also your general fund. The SPLOST number's not in there, but your general fund is kind of like the savings where we allocate majority of our funds. We put it over into the Georgia Fund 1. It's an investment account. And as you need money for operations, we just transfer it over. So that is earning at 91,000 for January, and last year at this time it was only 1,000. The next is your miscellaneous revenue. Looks like it's pretty in line with last year at last year 6,500, this year 6,800. And as I mentioned about your revenue decreasing, when you look at the total revenue for January of 2022, you see 5 million. For January 2023, you see 1.3. And again, that is your transfer in, and that's the ARPA. And once we make the transfer, you see we budgeted 2.9. So once we did the transfer there, it will even out. So that's the revenue for general fund. Now we're going into the expenditures. And of course, at the month of January, there's no one over budget. I'm going to go to the bottom, at the bottom, and the total expenditures last year was 7.3, this year 8.1. And as I mentioned, it's majority in transportation, and you are at 6.49. You spent 6.49. You should be at about 8.3% at this time. So you're 1.8 for under budget for your total expenditures. The next is the unincorporated. The same with the revenue. If you take a look at the revenue, and for the month of January 2022, last year was 843. This year is 346. But however, I believe that we may be some adjustments will be made to January. And you've collected 3.05 of your revenue for UnInc. For your expenditures for UnInc, so far the expenditure last year was 763. This year it's $1 million, and the majority of it is in your general appropriations, and that's the money going to fire and EMS. The next is fire protection, and as I mentioned in the summary, that last year was 1.2, this year 2.2. And I have to check the other financing sources. I thought I had that in my notes. I don't, but I will research that. Your expenditures for public, for the fire, last year 1.2, this year 1.4. And fire and EMS is under budget by 2.08. And they've collected 10% of the revenue. The next is animal control. Revenue at 99,000 last year, 184 this year. And it is it's the other financing sources, which is the SDS. And the expenditures for animal control last year 91,000 at this time, this year 101. Animal control is under budget by 2.86. And that's all for the financials. The next is the loss. And as of 2022 with 2021, a total of 2.8 million over last year. CFO Bivens asked next year, as you know, the loss allocation changed to 69.05. You could see in 2022 it's 66.30. Negotiations, and there is a intergovernmental agreement, and so it increased to 69.05. So I just kind of compared if we received the same amount of revenue for the total for loss for next year, and I used the new percentage of the 69.05, and it was about a 4.5% increase, which equated to about $1 million more.
Per month or per year?
For the whole year.
Yep, gotcha.
For the next is the SPLOST, and as I mentioned, for the month of January, really, which is the collection, they collected it in December, but we received the money in January. But it's over, when you compare it to last year, it's over by 216,000, which is a total of $4.3 million over more, an increase from last year. And when I say last year, I mean 2021 versus 2022. The next is the SPLOST. So far, we've received 166.7 million in SPLOST revenues. Your PAYGO is the net of what the revenue minus the claims, minus the checks that we've cut. And when I go over the single view, it would incorporate the encumbrance. So you'll see a true number. The 4.89 million represents what's in the bank account right now. And minus the encumbrance, you'll have about 23 million. It's about 23 million available. But when we go over the SPLOST, the single view, I will be able to go into detail. The next is the contingency fund. And we had the contingency, we kind of did it, I guess, in sections, or there's parts. The total contingency is 726,902. However, we did a portion, finance receives a portion. And again, contingency is any emergency transaction or project that wasn't budgeted for. And of course, anything contingency, it is approved by the administration, but finance has a balance of 276,902, and the BOC admin office has a balance of 450,000. So on the GL, you'll see 726,902. But for the month of January, there was no activity. So that balance is still 726,902 at the end of January. And that's all I have for the financials.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director Miller, or Director Miller. Madam Chair, you got any questions on the financial standing before we get into the other part? You okay with what you're listening to at the beginning of the year?
Looking good. I just,
No
Rosalind, if you could just just pivot back to the lost. I just wanted to see our bottom line. I know that's a couple slides up. I should have stopped you, but there we go. Okay. All right, thank you. I just wanted to see. 24,120,000 is what we brought in this year. Okay.
That is correct. That was the 66.3% allocation to the county.
Okay.
So-
And it will continue the 66.3% remain in effect going into 23.
Yeah, the
That's
next,
what that percentage changed.
No, no,
it
ma'am.
changed like next
It was-
month. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
It's okay, go ahead. You're going where I was getting ready to go. All right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say next month I'm gonna add a column and it's gonna be labeled 2023. And up at the top where you see 66.30,
That'll change to 60, what, 7, 68?
69.
69,
Point,
good.
69.05.
Okay, that's the only question I had. Thank you for clarifying for me. Thank you.
And I just wanted to add on what Rosalind was saying. I asked her to add those percentages there because in the future, when several of us may be gone, somebody want to go back and look and say, well, what was the percentage we were collecting? Why did we have such a big jump here? And then a few years down the line, when it gradually goes down, you can track it and see this was because of the loss
SDS.
negotiations.
Yeah, loss
SDS,
negotiations, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
And you can see that we got the big increase from 2022 to 2023 because the percentage
Percentage.
increases.
Yep.
Yes.
yes.
So
And that's all that you clarified and answered my question.
yes.
Yeah, thank you. You okay, Madam Chair? I want to bring up to that point. Again, sometimes it's small things. It's when we talk about data, and I'm going to continue from this morning. And I know we're going to get into the single view, but back in the day, Madam Chair, I mean, all we had was a spreadsheet that had no summaries. They just had raw data. I had to evolve that myself as a commissioner. Like, just give me the raw data, and I'll enhance the report. And so, Madam CFO, I appreciate it's a small things like the annotations right, the 66 to 69, like right. It's small things about, again, this is the year of maturity. Like, come on, guys, let's lay this thing out. Let's display this thing the way it should be. Be proud of the work, but versus just like what it's the raw data. Here you go. It's the data you asked for, but it ain't telling me nothing. And especially if I gotta go, summarize it myself and not showing the different looks. And so you guys get it. But I want to highlight because you made that point. It's like that little small thing, the little annotation, that little footnote, those little small things that helps tell the history within the data. It's history within the data that you're talking about, and especially when we're talking about trends. We're not a finance committee, guys. Look at over time. Now you got to be able to compare and have context for prior years and future years. So I just wanted to highlight that. I'm not going to belabor it. We're going to keep this thing moving. So, all right. So that was that. We're going to go into our next item, Madam CFO. Let's talk about
The Ross single view. Rosalind has that up.
perfect segue.
Okay, so with the single view and for the month of January, there was no activity, and that's normal because majority of the services were rendered in 2022. So we actually, we call it accrue. So we accrue those expenditures back. So the prior year column changed, but your 2023 expenditures, you're not going to see. I think transportation was the only true cost to 2023. But as I mentioned down, the most important column is the remaining project budget. And so for fire, we have 5.3 million is the remaining, and this is the budget minus actual checks cut minus what's encumbered. So for fire, you have a remaining balance of 5.3. For transportation, you have a balance of 16.1. And for parks, you have a balance of 1.6. And for your program management, which I think there was an amendment that's not reflective of this, but it states the remaining balance is $6,000, but I know that there's amendments, so that'll probably change for next month. But the most important is this in yellow, where it says the total remaining budget is at 23.2. As of today, total amount expensed, and then the outstanding POs is 97.1 million. That's how much you have spent, and also that you have outstanding in POs. And as I mentioned, the 41 minus the 16 gives you about 22 million dollars. And that ties to your total remaining project budget. So that's what, if everything was paid out, all the POs, we cut all the checks for the PO, your balance in your checking account would be $23 million.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Left over above and beyond.
What was projected?
That is correct. But just remember, the projects, not all the projects are completed.
Right.
Right. So therein lies, again, synchronization. Right. So I'm pushing the cutoff. Right. So now what you're saying, this is a moment in time as of today, right now, or the last reporting period, right?
That is correct.
All right. Now, does it take into account everything that will go into next year? It does take it that. I mean, the conversation we had this morning, are you saying that this will take into account that everything that will roll into next year? In other words, those projects that are on the list above the line, we're saying that we're going to finish all of them out. And we're going to have, at least when we're finished all those projects out, we'll have $23 million left over. All things being equal, I get, right? 23 million?
Yes, and you may have to ask, I'm not really, I guess, up on the below the line and the reforecast, the colors, but David probably can. I know that if it's in, if we budgeted for it, yes, it does include it, but I'm looking real quick, and David, you can.
David, good, you out there, weigh in, sir.
Yes, the amount does not include any of the projects that's in the red. Those projects that we know that we're not going to be able to get to with this 2016 SPLOST.
All right, so if it's in the red, but everything else goes, David?
Yes, everything else goes, and everything that's in the yellow, all those things are things that end up becoming design engineering. So it includes those amounts for design engineering, but not the construction of those projects.
Not the construction. Good point of delineation. Right, not
correct.
So it's that moment in time we cut off. So David, based on this conversation, what you're hearing, not the red, but everything goes as listed, and we'll have $23 million left over, give or take. Is that what you're interested? I need somebody to confirm that the projects that are listed. Go ahead.
I don't think that's Rosalind's. I'm trying to get Rosalind to email this to me because I don't think that's what's left over. Rosalind, I need to see the spreadsheets.
And maybe what's left over right now. But you still got, I mean, what are y'all saying? That this takes in consideration everything to the end?
That's what's left over right now for projects that have not finished. Because if you look at each individual one, how the spreadsheet reads, it shows the budget, the current estimated cost, what has been spent, what has been paid out, the current year's expenditures and the encumbrances, and then that shows the total amount that has been spent on that project, and it shows what's left over in that budget. So some of these items may not have been completed yet, so that's included in that total remaining project budget, if that makes sense.
That's correct.
Yeah. So the $23 million, Commissioner, that includes some projects that may not have started yet. So that's what we have to cover, anything that we have left over that's remaining that has not been completed, or that we're even in the middle of doing right now, because we still had some invoices that we would need to pay once that work is, as it's in progress and invoices come in.
No, I mean, that's what
Answer
I'm
your
saying.
question?
Yeah, you've almost got a year's worth of revenue sitting there. And I don't want the public's expectation to think that, okay, they're gonna finish everything up here and they're gonna have $23 million left over. It's like, no, that $23 million has to be to accomplish everything that's listed there. That's all I'm
That is
looking
correct.
for. The layman's answer. Like, guys, say it the right way now. That $23 million is not what's gonna be left over, Madam Chair, that we get to take that and put it in your fund balance. No, that's to cover these existing expenses all the way out for the next, 23 months,
However long it takes to complete them.
correct.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification, because I felt the same way too, Chair.
Yeah, no, we
Yeah,
don't
we
have
had
extra money.
$23 Okay, thank you for confirming.
Yes, ma'am.
I was celebrating over here.
Oh, no, we don't have extra money. That's just that's the total remaining project budget, which means
Okay.
that money hasn't been spent yet.
Oh, okay, sounds
But it's
understood.
it's already been, allocated or set aside or assigned, so to speak, to a project. But we haven't spent any of that money, and it hasn't been encumbered now, like a PO hasn't been issued yet. For instance, I
Okay.
believe fire trucks, I'm gonna use that as an example. I believe the fire trucks, are included in this, SPLOST. So that $2 million or whatever the amount that Chief provided this morning, that was from SPLOST, will come out of that $23 million, because we
Okay.
haven't bought it yet. So it's not reflected on that column where it says prior years or FYE 23 expenditures or encumbrances.
Okay, yes, understood.
Okay,
So to that point, is the construction of the fire station in there? In that it'll come out of that 23 million?
yes, sir.
See now.
Rosa, scroll back up to the top, please, for me. And to the fire section, scroll over, I'm not sure which line item it is, or what row it's on. It's on page 1. So there's a letter for, oh no, it's not that.
Yeah, it's just how to use this tool and how to interpret.
Station 9 building there, okay, so, 4,252,000.
Yeah. But we're still waiting on the actual amount.
But that's what
Remember?
we have right now, that's what we have, and we've only spent,
Right.
so we had $3,675,000 left. Looks like, without me seeing the heading, looks like it's $3,675,075, remaining in that project budget for Station 9.
Right, and so that's for construction, right?
Yes.
Yes,
All right,
Yes.
so just follow me. So what if it comes in at 5 million? 4.5?
then I say, Houston, we have a problem. No, we have to find some more money. So actually, over this overall, at the bottom of this spreadsheet, the total, out of the $24 million, I believe, is that the current, Roslyn, scroll back up to the top. I need this in front of me.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry.
Okay, there, the
Yeah.
current cost estimate is, slow down, second my column together, it's $32 million. So they have $32 million as their current cost estimates for all of their projects. We have spent, looks like and encumbered $25.8 million. So they had this $5.3 million remaining to cover the rest of their project. So
That
if
is,
it goes over, then, I guess whichever comes in first, so that's when we have to look at, if costs come in and it says we're gonna exceed this $3.6 million, then we need to look at, okay, where else do we have money left over in his budget, in existing projects that we may need to pull from and scale back on something that's there that needs to be done as well.
And that's been my point maybe a couple months ago when I said, watch your spending, like, right, you come down to the fire here. And, we don't want to have fire engines with no wheels, because we ran out of cash. You cannot pull from one SPLOST into the next one, necessarily as relates to the projects themselves. So, just, you guys got it. I'm fine. I'm sure it's really for you, Madam Chair. I actually understand what I'm looking at. I'm fine. But this type of document, this tool, Madam Chair, it's important for us all to get on the same page, have a single view of everything. Now it makes more sense as we make decisions, Madam Chair. So.
Yes, it does. The single view is great. It helps us to really look at everything, and we can wrap our minds around what we have remaining, what we don't, and also what we've done thus far. So thank you, Madam CFO, and then also Rosalind, Interim Director, for pulling this together for us. It's nice. It's great. It's a great tool.
Yeah.
Like the chair said, we are looking at financial maturity in all parts of our operations to see what we can do to advance from, as my favorite word, ordinary to extraordinary with efficiencies. And this is a very efficient tool. So thank you.
Yeah, and I want to thank David Goodwill, Madam Chair. He's a great modeler. He's an excellent
Thank you so much
model
for that,
guy.
David.
You wouldn't know it, but he's actually pretty good at it. I haven't given
Oh, I didn't see him down there. Oh, there you are, David. I see you.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're welcome. Oh, there you are.
So they're all good. You guys got this. And again, Madam Chair, I
Yes.
want to make sure I acknowledge
Thank
all
you,
these
David,
guys
so much.
to mature us to this point. So,
Welcome, Madam Chair.
all right. So, Madam CFO, if there's anything else you want to cover on that, again, this will be a standing tool. We'll pull out every now and then, at least over the next 2 or 3 months, right? Especially as we go from one to a new one, right? Now, how are we going to have a single view of two at the same time? We can talk about that. But yeah, you got to have a single view of both. You
Yes.
finish one and starting another one. You use the same tool, be consistent, so we have the same color coding, same everything. But again, look, these SPLOSTs are as big as our annual budget. Right? Think about the spend. So you get it.
Yes, sir.
Over.
And we will continue this for 2016 SPLOST until everything is complete. So if it doesn't get completed next year, every month we'll have something with an update on where we are financially on those projects. And then once 2022 SPLOST begins, we'll do the same thing with that. And I guess it's a good segue, if no one else has any questions about the single view, to the next item, which you had which you'd like to have discussion for a standing item, is 2022 SPLOST, and kind of where we are on that. Rosalind has met with all the departments, has gotten their prioritized list of everything. And again, we're still putting everything together. We had planned on having it for the meeting today, but after speaking with Dr. Corbin and looking at some things, we're pushing it off until, I think he said the 1st of April, not 1st of April, the meeting in March. So we should have everything. We're going to bring you a CIP plan along with the SPLOST projects, so you can see, for you all to look at and approve at that time, or approve later on in the month, whichever we will be planning to deliver that information to you the first meeting in March.
Right, so this is the last meeting in February. So first meeting in March is fine. I have no problem. Madam Chair, we're okay. Again, I'm just trying, and this is just committee conversation. I'm just trying to anticipate when we plan to issue or go to New York and go through the whole underwriting process. I'm just looking at that timeline. I'm not worried about the detail of staff. At some point, y'all gonna have a set of projects and some numbers. No problem. But when will we actually have the bond? Unless we're gonna just pay go this thing, is to go to bond this SPLOST, or are we gonna pay go it? If we're gonna pay go it, then I'm not worried about New York. I'm not worried about underwriters and so forth. But if we are gonna bond some portion thereof, I'm trying to get my mind about, well, how much, where are we at right now, and what is the timeline in which that could happen? That's all.
Gotcha. Okay, so to respond to that, again, speaking with Dr. Corbin, that is the purpose of getting this list together, so we can see what is to go, because he stated that when we go to bond the money, we need to have projects that are ready to go. Because if we don't have anything that's ready to go, he feels like there's no need of us bonding that much, because then we're paying interest on out of SPLOST funds that we could utilize for some of the other projects. So that is also part of that exercise that we're doing, that we'll be bringing to the board. And I think he said the bonding piece would be in April. April the 1st, he would have all of that as if we were gonna do the bond or not, along with the program, management piece of it as well. So that's kind of where we are with the bonding piece of this. We need to determine, get the list together first of all the SPOS items. What is it that we can purchase now? Because as you know, when you do a bond, you're supposed to spend that money within 36 months in the first 3 years of that bond. So he wants to make sure that we can be in compliance with that. If we don't have any buildings, I believe he said, for instance, the coroner's building, it won't be ready to go to start construction for another year. So that's something that he said he needs to take into consideration when we're discussing how much we're going to buy a bonded capacity, if that makes sense. So that's where we are with the bond.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting conversation. Because you've got a program, I get it. Yeah, you've got to pay your principal and interest payments. So you take cash today, but you still got to make these payments. Got it. But what's show ready? Well, you have a list of things that should be show ready at some point. There are some stages of design versus construction. You got plenty of assets that you can purchase that can move us along. You've got sheriffs. You got okay, so that's what I'm saying. We're and I understand y'all are trying to get y'all mind around that. I'm looking at okay, but you got plenty to do. You got plenty to fill up bonds. You don't pick 110 or pick 150. Pick one. But to say, I'm looking for the definitiveness. Be definitive. You're talking about in 45 days and we're still not sure how much and y'all met this much. It's okay, guys, you just put the list in front of us. We already know what's going to extend. So I guess, all right, so let me ask my second question then. Duly noted, thank you. April 1st, got it. I heard it, Madam Chair. March 1st and April 1st, got it. I heard program manager and I heard bonding, got it. The question becomes, all right, so there's you guys collecting your data as a government, but then there's also the legislative part, which are committees. Those are different functions. That's why I want to make sure that who's driving what. In other words, I hear y'all, but are y'all listening to, we have a committee structure and you've got input that's already for me, transportation is pretty much settled. That's me. We've met, there's no movement on that. So there's not much to talk about. There's not much to list, make sure, no, that's the list. That's what's being recommended to the full board. I guess maybe facilities is done or not done, but I'm not sharing that, but I'm gonna let that go. And so you got these other two committees that has movements okay, guys, when y'all go, this ain't that difficult. And so, but I'm curious, and again, this is not y'all, this is committee, this is finance, we're good. So have y'all had any conversation with the other committees? Where is public safety and where is park and rec? You don't have to speak for them, I'm just asking within this committee, where are they at? Because at some point, they gotta come to us, or by default, it gets settled by finance. So I guess I wanna make sure that their voices is not gonna be overwritten by okay, are y'all paying attention? This thing is moving? And it's gonna get settled automatically if y'all don't get these committees together by default. Can y'all weigh in on this?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Robinson, and I'm not sure if Deputy County Administrator Perry or ACA Stewart Stanley would like to, and I would also like to comment. All committees have met.
You sound a little muffled. I gotta hear this.
Can you hear me? Is
Yeah,
that better? Okay.
Yeah.
We met with all committees, or some people from this group have met with all the committees and have their recommendation and their priorities of what they want to include in this fund.
And so all four categories that should
Yes,
have
sir.
had a committee associated with it, all four have passed. They have a list, and there's been a formal vote in each one of those committees to say this is our recommended list. And so therefore you guys are aggregating those four recommended lists, yes or no?
Deputy Perry and Stewart Stanley, because one of the two of those meetings I wasn't involved
I
in.
understand. I respect that.
No,
I'm not binding you.
Before I say yes, I want them to confirm that they met with those committees and that they
There was an
voted
actual
on their
vote
projects.
by the committees that this is what's being recommended. Has that happened 4 times? Yes or no?
Are they there?
They're probably in the hallway talking to each other.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm here.
I do know about the facilities piece.
I know
Yes,
facilities did.
Yeah.
Facilities did, and our public safety because we had an emergency call meeting with them. I did sit in on that one, but they've come back with some changes since then, because we thought we had everything. And Lawson told me that public safety called last week with some more changes, so that's why we want to prepare for today. And he said,
Well, hold
Parks
on,
and
stay
Rec-
there. No, don't leave Madam Chair's point. So, Madam Chair, you're comfortable with your committee as facilities. You met with your team. You got a recommendation. You voted, and that you're comfortable as of that moment, unless you brought it back some kind of way. Is that true? You had the transfer station. You had the corner. You had some other. You had the fleet building. You had about 3 or 4 things. A museum over there.
DCA, if you could chime in as well. I believe we kind of solidified our determination for that list. Am I correct? I just want to make sure that we met.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I was I got pulled away for a hot second,
Okay.
and let
For
me
the
know when I'm
facility, for
solidified.
the list, the facilities list for the 2023 SPLOST,
Uh-huh.
2022 SPLOST, we met, and then we just, I won't say we confirmed, but we just voted on those, not voted, concurred on the items that are on there so we could bring before the board. Am I correct? The facilities list?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was in the room, but I want to make sure I wasn't in there by myself. Okay.
Yeah, and I want to say as of that date, it was confirmed, and we have not brought it forth to the Board of Commissioners obviously yet. But I guess this may be about as complete. I don't want to say it's exhaustive and ready to go. That would be David Corbin's call. But as of right now, that is correct. We did meet on it, and we have a draft final list. I'll call it that.
and that's what was provided to Robin, correct?
Yeah. Yes,
So
ma'am.
we have transportation, we have facilities, public safety. I think that's when we all met with public safety that day. They probably didn't approve their list, did they not? Anybody that was in the room that day, other than me?
When you say public safety, I know there was a meeting that I attended where we listed the projects, but I don't think a list was approved.
Yeah, that's correct. Because from that meeting, Dr. Corbin asked for us to meet with everybody in public safety. And so we do have a list, and one office has emailed, and I think they made some minor changes. So I just have to take a look at that. But I don't think a list has actually been officially approved, but we did sit down with public safety after the direction of David Corbin.
Okay, so that one, Commissioner Robinson, that we may need to go back to them with their compiled list, revised list from that day, and get them to approve that one. And then Parks, I believe, I wasn't in the meeting with Parks. So did you all, I know that, I think, did you have the meeting with them?
Yeah, we did the same thing with Parks.
Did they vote on
Madam
it?
CFO.
And they voted?
Correct.
Okay, so it's just the one that we need to circle back around and have them to approve what they've all provided to us, that they all agreed to. They just need to formally vote on it. So that would be the fourth one.
Okay, wait, let me back up. So I got facilities, I got transportation. Did I hear that Parks and Rec met as a group and that there was an actual vote written? Again, I've been out of town, so I'm great if it did happen. That there was an actual vote on a set of lists for things Park and Rec, and y'all now have it. That true? There's a vote within that committee.
Frederick, you said there was a vote
Yes.
on that, Penny? Okay.
Yeah, so we went through all of the items that they had on the CIP and on the SPLOST list and just approved and updated the amounts that they originally submitted to make sure that we have the correct amounts. And so yes, we are on one accord as far as what's on the list for Parks and Rec. We did that also for public safety and for, I think it was public safety, and there was one more. I think it was facilities.
All right, no. I got you. Stay on point with Parks and Rec. Was there an actual vote by that committee?
No.
All right, so all right, so that's what I'm trying to get at. Because by default, without a vote of that committee, it's gonna be default, comes back up through finance. And my point is, are they paying attention or are they gonna allow it to go that way? Because based on your timeline and based on everybody's schedules, it's like, okay, y'all paying attention? It's gonna get, your hand gonna get dealt them by default. If the committee does not take ownership and leadership to settle it and call a vote to the two chairs, call your members together, solve it, vote, and send it on over to finance so we can make sure that it's ready. Else it's gonna get done by default, Madam Chair, and I don't want it to be like, well, the finance committee did like, no, y'all need to wake up and get in the game. Right? The point is by default, finance is gonna wrap it. I'm just making a point, like, are y'all paying attention? Y'all don't see how this is moving? Our policy passed, everything's gotta come through finance. So what's not settled through a formal vote of a committee is gonna get settled in finance. And then that goes to the full board of commissioners to go where the board chooses to do, that's that. I'm just saying, I'm just doing this for the record, that we were honest, we were transparent on the process. There was no okie doke. I've said this, 56 times in the past 8 months since the vote. And so it's like, all right, guys. And it shouldn't be this difficult when last time I was able to sell it in a room with some McDonald's and the part like, okay, this is really way more difficult than it really need to be. But all right, guys, you got this. And it's more formal process. There's more people involved. And I appreciated that it wasn't just that we didn't have a list before, Madam Chair. And I know the list is great and big, and I know. I just don't want it to be, I just don't want politics to roll into something that is straight administrative. In other words, get your list together, guys. Make sure the number's right. And let's keep it moving on behalf of the citizens. So, all right, I won't belabor it. Madam Chair, you got any more comments on this? I mean, that's it.
No more comments, no.
We got to the next meeting.
Perfect. No further comments.
All right. Very good. Madam CFO, anything else?
No, sir, that was it.
All right, so
That's the last
anything
item
else?
on our agenda.
All right, guys. Anything else y'all want to add? Because again, it's going to come. Let's just wait. These next 2 months is going to be key. The SPOS, current SPOS is going to end. The new one begins. So it's just sort of a steady. Just finish it out. Just finish it out. My question is, I have one outstanding issue, and we can go around the room. The audit process. Do we get our auditors on board? Are we okay with our auditor?
Yes, sir. We actually have a meeting with Meredith and her staff person that comes out to work with us tomorrow morning at 10, Rosalind and I, to talk about these elected officials and constitutional officers and how we're going to handle them for the 2022 audit. Rosalind and I were meeting in the morning anyway to discuss scheduling a meeting with them, with us one-on-one, to tell them this is what we need and how can we help you get to where you need to get to. So 2023 audit will be in compliance.
Right. So what we need and the time we need it in. It's the time
Yes.
frame, right? It's like, okay, come on, guys. I mean, at some point you get a routine. At some point you know there's an audit every year. Make time for it. Find staff members that can support. We can help you put little tools and shortcuts and stuff, right? I mean, some of this, like, and again, one more time, I know you got it. I just had to bring up that point. I'm good. You answered the audit question. And so, as you say, we're going to be in compliance. So we're not going to wait to the end of the year to deliver the prior year. So, Madam Chair, well, I'm going to come back to you, Madam Chair. Anybody else? Madam Chair gets last word. Madam CFO, you okay?
I'm good.
All right. Deputy?
I'm good. Thank you, Commissioner.
Madam ACA?
No, I'm good as well. Thank you.
All right, all right. Roz and David, y'all okay? Anything y'all want to contribute that we might have missed?
No, good
No,
meeting.
I'm good.
All right. Madam Chair, you always get the last word.
And all is well. That's my last word. Thank you. Great meeting.
All right, very good. All right, then, if there's nothing that needs to come before this Finance Committee of February 20th, 2023 of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, let this committee stand adjourned.